Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight is on a major warning by the UK's MI5 about how China's spymasters are allegedly posing as recruiters to make contact with those in the British Parliament. We tell you more about what has been said, the extent to which things have gone, and the larger picture. Also on the show for you tonight, what's the story behind the NATO's AI drone killer landing on Russia's doorstep? What's the messaging? Is the way to Donald Trump's heart through his pocket? We tell you why this question comes up. All this and more coming up. If you are looking for a job, be careful lest you find yourself spying without even realizing it perhaps for China. You heard that right. China's spymasters are masquerading allegedly as recruiters on LinkedIn using polished profiles, AI-generated photographs, and some flattery to make contact with people in the British Parliament. This is according to a warning issued by MI5 that says China's Ministry of State Security has been using fake headhunter accounts to seek out potential recruits. Let's just break this down for you. Not just LinkedIn, in fact, MI5 says the Chinese spy agency has also been using other covert operations in the effort to recruit and compromise lawmakers as well as parliamentary staff members in the UK. The warning comes just 2 months after a political scandal in Britain erupted over the collapse of the spy case against a parliamentary researcher and a teacher, accused of funneling sensitive information to China. This latest alert by MI5, issued on Tuesday itself, warned the British lawmakers that the Chinese Foreign Intelligence Service, the Ministry of State Security, had been secretly targeting members of the parliament, government staff members, political consultants, economists, as well as employees of think tanks, allegedly. In a statement in the House of Commons, the security minister has said, I'm quoting now, China is attempting to recruit and cultivate individuals with access to sensitive information about the parliament and the UK government. This activity involves a covert and calculated attempt by a foreign power to interfere with our sovereign affairs, quote unquote. Not just that, adding that the British government will take all necessary measures to protect the national interest, the citizens, and the democratic way of life. That's the statement. Now, the MI5 alert identified 2 headhunters. The chief executive of BPYR Executive Search, a company in Beijing, and another one of Internship Union based in Hong Kong. MI5 calls them civilian recruitment headhunters used by China's Ministry of State Security to target people in Britain. The alert also said that the recruiters can use fake or legitimate companies to hide their work with the Chinese intelligence services using some form of covert operations for the entire relationship that they build online, some sort of cover, which then brings us to what's playing out. This reportedly includes approaching someone to work as freelance consultants, authoring geopolitical reports, And the alert says that Chinese intelligence officers had a low threshold for what information is considered to be of value. But individual pieces of information fit into a wider collection effort. How has China responded? In a statement posted to the website of the Chinese embassy in London, Beijing said, I'm quoting, "These claims by the UK side are pure fabrication and malicious slander. We strongly condemn such despicable moves of the UK side and have lodged stern representations with them." But then Britain insists that it is being targeted by China. Just last month, the Director General of MI5, in fact, said in a speech that China was engaging in cyber espionage and the theft of advanced secrets and had conducted efforts to interfere covertly in UK public life. And now, the alert sent to members of the parliament on Tuesday has the potential to revive the political debate over the case that was dropped in September. Remember, we had reported how the decision not to bring the case to trial roiled politics in London for weeks. Senior members of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government have repeatedly said that it was the decision of Stephen Parkinson, the Director of Public Prosecutions, to drop the case against a parliamentary researcher, Christopher Cash, and teacher Christopher Berry. The prosecutor had said that the government's unwillingness to call China a threat at the time meant he could not charge them under the Official Secrets Act. The British Prime Minister's critics had claimed that Prime Minister Starmer and his aides had not done enough to help the prosecutors make the case against the two accused. They accused that the Labour government did so in order to maintain trade links with China. Now it's not clear how successful the Chinese spies had been in penetrating Britain's parliamentary networks. The MI5 director has also not said it in his speech, but he did declare the government's intention to try to counter China's alleged efforts to spy on government officials. What that would entail is yet to be revealed. On to Ukraine now, as the country braces for a brutal winter offensive. As Russia intensifies the drone and missile campaign, another front is quietly heating up, right on Russia's doorstep. The NATO has just rolled out a new AI-powered drone killer, a system that America claims can hunt down and destroy Russian drones, even when the battlefield goes dark. And is now deployed across NATO's eastern flank, Poland, Romania, and soon Denmark. A signal basically to Moscow that the alliance is arming up, from Norway in the north to Turkey in the south. The weapon, in fact, it fits in the back of a mid-sized pickup truck, but don't be fooled by the size. What it basically does is, and that is what has set off alarms in Moscow. According to NATO officials, it uses AI to lock onto drones even when GPS, satellite signals, or communication is jammed by the Russian electronic warfare. Why does that matter? Because recently, Russia's drones have been accused of crossing into NATO airspace multiple times. We've been telling you about this. In September itself, Poland said that 20 Russian drones flew into Polish airspace. Soon after, Romania claimed Russian drone incursion. And then came the reports of drones temporarily shutting down airports in Copenhagen, Munich, Berlin, Brussels. There were also sightings near Belgian and Danish military bases. All of this has been attributed to Russian drones by Western analysts and sometimes leaders. Russia refutes the claims. But either way, for NATO, this was a wake-up call. And this latest development is their answer. But even as NATO arms up like this, inside Ukraine, the fight is only escalating fast. In its most recent report from the battlefield, Russia has said that its forces hit 153 areas across Ukraine. In the last 24 hours itself, they targeted fuel depots, energy supply lines, military trains carrying armored vehicles, reportedly, and claimed to have shot down 206 Ukrainian drones. Ukraine telling a very different story. Its military said Russia launched 4 Iskander-M missiles and 114 drones overnight, of which 101 were shot down or suppressed. They also say they hit Russian military sites using US-supplied tactical missiles and said that they will continue using long-range strike capabilities. In total, more than 151 clashes were reported on the front line, mostly near Pokrovsk and Kharkiv. But the most devastating strike was far from the front line. In western Ukraine, the city of Ternopil was hit by a massive drone and missile barrage overnight, reportedly. 2 9-story apartment buildings took direct hits, 25 people dead, 80 others injured. It's being considered one of the deadliest attacks on civilians in the war. Ukraine claims Russia fired 476 drones and 48 missiles at Ukraine, striking energy and transport infrastructure and forcing emergency power cuts in a number of areas in the frigid temperatures. Ukrainian president responded sharply, saying every brazen attack on ordinary life shows the pressure on Russia is not enough. As Russia intensifies the drone warfare, as NATO deploys its newest AI weapons, and as cities far from the front come under attack, is the war entering a harder, faster, and more technological phase, not just in Ukraine, but also on Europe's most volatile border? We'll have to wait and watch for that answer. A series of rather unusual moments inside the White House, leading many to ask questions about power, influence, the president's reactions behind closed doors. From high-profile visits to tense exchanges and even abrupt policy shifts, the events of the past few weeks itself talking about President Trump's functioning, the questions that followed, also seeming to trigger his attention the most. Last week, top Swiss business figures arrived at the White House bearing lavish gold gifts, and Trump suddenly slashed tariffs on Swiss imports, something which Switzerland had been pursuing for months. What had been a stalemate instantly became a done deal, raising fresh scrutiny that the price of entry to Trump's Oval Office could be gifts and perhaps flattery. Observers noting that while presidents have long received diplomatic gifts, of course, the prominence of luxury offerings appear to have taken on a unique character in the Trump era. Some analysts arguing that when money or personal benefit is in the air, his body language seems to change. It becomes more engaged, perhaps, more attentive, far more accommodative. This heightened focus on wealth and prestige is reflected in the Trump family's growing business footprint in Saudi Arabia, for example. In the latest, a $300 million Trump Organization partnership to develop a luxury resort in the Maldives, to be tokenized on blockchain technology, and is being marketed as the world's first tokenized hotel development. The deal took on new attention as Trump met with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office to discuss defense and AI agreements between the two sides. And this raised questions from reporters about whether it was appropriate for his family to pursue such business while he serves as the president. Trump's pageantry and politics was also well in focus when he hosted the Syrian president, handing him a bottle of his victory perfume, one for him and one, when he joked, for his wife. Only one wife, he asked. The exchange added to the growing list of these Oval Office moments that stand out. But the tone changes when the topic turns away from business, it seems. On November 14, on board Air Force One, when asked about the recently released Jeffrey Epstein emails, Trump snapped back at a reporter. Listen to this.
There's nothing incriminating in the file, Venezuela, sir.
And something similar happened during the Saudi Crown Prince's visit. Another reporter raised questions about potential conflicts of interest involving Trump family deals. What happened next? Wait and watch.
Much better, sir.
So we are talking to various people.
Is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval
Who are you
Office.
with?
Why should Americans trust
Who are you with? No, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news.
And it doesn't even end there. When she followed up about the release of the Epstein-related documents, Trump fired back. And all of this coming as Trump's approval rating hits a second-term low. A new Ipsos poll showing his support dropping to 38%, with public trust in his handling of the Epstein files falling to just 20%. 70% of Americans believe the government is hiding details related to the Epstein investigation. 61% believe information about his death remains concealed. Now, the numbers suggest a shift, and not just in Trump's political standing, but also in a way in the hold that he has long claimed over his own base. Before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. The United States is the biggest recipient of Chinese loans, according to a report. We're breaking it all down for you in just a bit. Heartbreaking tales of the harrowing ordeal being faced by parents of schoolgirls abducted in Nigeria. It's a race against time to save these girls. All this and more coming up. The world's deadliest fighters facing off again, East versus West, stealth versus speed. The American F-35 and the Russian Su-57. Both advanced multi-role fighter aircraft wowed Dubai's desert skies. As the battle for air dominance intensifies, India stands at the center of it all, choosing its next generation winged warrior. Our next report telling you more.
It was a duel in the desert, the American F-35 gliding in with quiet confidence, the Russian Su-35 roaring to prove its mettle. At the Dubai Air Show, stealth met raw power in a rare display of aerial supremacy. The world watched as both superpowers flexed their flying beast. The fifth-generation fighter jets are the ultimate weapons in the skies. Equipped with cutting-edge avionics, these stealth aircraft are virtually invisible. The nation which possesses them have the unique capability to fire from afar with precision, while remaining untouched, unstopped, unmatched in aerial combat. Now the F-35 is America's crown jewel, a single-seat, single-engine stealth, jet packed with sensors and electronic warfare systems. It talks, sees, and strikes before the enemy even knows it's there. price tag, over 80 million US dollars. Its strength are stealth and data dominance. Its weakness are cost and operational complexity. Then comes Russia's Su-35, not just stealth but deadly agile. Twin engines, massive thrust, and maneuverability. It can tear through the sky at 2,450 kilometers per hour, outdancing most adversaries. Cheaper, combat-proven, brutal. But experts say that against the F-35's invisible radar signature, can speed alone win? The American president has already offered the premium American fighter jet to India in February.
We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters.
Now, ahead of President Putin's India visit, Moscow is offering to transfer full technology for the Su-57 with no restrictions, an offer Washington has never made. If India accepts, it gets more than aircraft. It gains control over stealth, sensors, and next-gen production. But Delhi has another card, the homegrown AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, designed to rival the best, build autonomy, and end dependency. India's fighter dreams are taking flight faster than ever before.
On to a major escalation in the U.S. pressure on Venezuela, with President Trump now approving new covert CIA operations as American military forces surge into the Caribbean. A lot's happening. America's largest aircraft carrier, in fact, is now positioned off Venezuela under what's called Operation Southern Spear, the biggest U.S. deployment in the region since the Cuban Missile Crisis. About 15,000 troops are involved, including Marines on amphibious ships and forces stationed in Puerto Rico. According to a New York Times report, the president has signed off on a set of covert actions inside Venezuela. The actions are described as early-stage operations that could prepare the battlefield for possible military strikes. The details remain classified, but they would precede any direct use of U.S. ground forces. In those contacts, Maduro has signaled reportedly that he might consider leaving power after a short transition, and has floated offers reportedly to give U.S. energy companies greater access to Venezuela's oil reserves. And the White House has not accepted those terms. At the same time, military planners have prepared options targeting suspected drug facilities and units loyal to Maduro. The U.S. State Department is also set to designate a large part of Maduro's inner circle as a terrorist organization, a move that could open the way for broader action. The American Navy has already carried out more than 20 strikes on boats it says were involved in drug trafficking, resulting in dozens of deaths. Critics telling the paper these strikes lack congressional authorization and may have targeted civilians. The end game remains uncertain, with possibilities ranging from a diplomatic deal to Maduro's voluntary exit to a potential U.S.-led military campaign, perhaps. London raising the stakes as a Russian spy ship prowls the British waters, tension soaring with warnings that military force is on standby. Undersea secrets in the balance, and Britain, it seems, is ready to strike. The clock is ticking on the shadowy Russian spy ship Yantar, lurking close to the UK shores reportedly. British defence chiefs have made it clear if this vessel steps up its intelligence gathering or threatens security, military options are locked and loaded.
That Russian action is deeply dangerous. And this is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed to UK waters. So my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Now, this is no ordinary ship. It's a heavily equipped spy vessel, reportedly. with robotic submersibles capable of mapping and tapping undersea cables, the hidden arteries of Britain's digital and military communication ecosystem. The British Ministry of Defence, in fact, says it will not tolerate shadow games. Pilots have been scrambled, naval assets put on high alert, surveillance increased.
This is a vessel designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. We deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF P-8 planes to monitor and track this vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed lasers at our pilots.
The message from London is quite simple. Espionage near British waters crosses a red line, and military muscle is primed for action with contingency plans ready to counter any hostile moves, up to and including disabling the spy ship. And it is not the first time that the Yantar has probed Britain defences. After a warning last year, it left UK waters for the Mediterranean. When the Russian ship later sailed through the English Channel in January, it was followed by HMS Somerset, a frigate assigned to homeland defence in the waters around Britain. The UK and its NATO allies are concerned about the risk that Russia poses to offshore cables, pipelines and other infrastructure that's critical to internet connectivity. And Moscow has previously refuted such allegations, calling the movement of its ships as routine. India's National Security Advisor met his Bangladeshi counterpart in New Delhi, and this comes just a day after a Dhaka court, remember, sentenced Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death and renewed calls for her extradition from India. Dr. Rahman arrived in the Indian capital on Tuesday evening for a two-day conclave that started on Wednesday, focusing on maritime domain awareness, counter-terrorism and disaster response. The closely watched bilateral meeting between the two officials took place ahead of the 7th NSA-level meeting of the Colombo Security Conclave hosted by India, to be attended by counterparts from Sri Lanka, the Maldives and Mauritius. In an official statement, the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi described the discussion as constructive. This marks the first visit by the Bangladeshi NSA to India since the interim government assumed power in August 2024. This is also the highest level contact between New Delhi and Dhaka since the Indian Prime Minister and the interim chief advisor, Mohammad Yunus, met in Bangkok on the sidelines of the BIMSTEC summit. The relations between the two sides have remained largely frosty since Bangladesh accused India of sheltering the ousted Sheikh Hasina. India, meanwhile, expressed concern over rising anti-India sentiment and the safety of Bangladesh's Hindu minority. Before Dr. Rahman's departure, the Yunus administration signaled that regional cooperation remains a priority, and earlier government announcements stressed that Bangladesh had actively participated in meetings of various regional bodies. Tensions in the occupied West Bank have escalated after a deadly knife attack. Israeli emergency services have said two Palestinian teenagers attacked civilians with knives, killing a 71-year-old man and injuring three others. The man who died has been identified as Aharon Cohen, a resident of the Kiryat Arba settlement near Hebron. The injured, including a woman in serious condition with a gunshot injury, and a man and a teenage boy in moderate condition. Local reports saying the woman may have been hit by Israeli security forces during their response, though this has not been confirmed. The attack comes amid a sharp rise in violence across the occupied West Bank since the Gaza war started, a conflict that has also spilled over into Lebanon. The regional tension is deepening further as Israel expands its military operations into southern Lebanon. The Israeli military, in fact, says it has started striking Hezbollah targets in the south shortly after sending warnings to residents in two Lebanese villages. And this follows Israel's claim that it killed two Hezbollah members a day earlier. one in Bint Jebel, who is said to have been involved in rebuilding the group's military capacity, and another in Bleida, who is accused of gathering intelligence on Israeli troop movements. Now, these strikes come despite a ceasefire agreed 1 year ago between Israel and Hezbollah, remember, a deal meant to halt more than a year of the cross-border fighting following the outbreak of the Gaza war. Israel accuses Hezbollah of repeatedly violating the ceasefire. Lebanon, in return, accuses Israel of breaching it through airstrikes and by keeping the troops inside its territory. Additional strikes hit a Hamas training site inside the Ain al-Helweh refugee camp in southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry has said at least 13 people were killed. Hamas denies operating military facilities inside Palestinian camps in Lebanon and called Israel's claims as lies. Now, these developments only underscore the aftershocks of the Gaza war that continue to be felt across the region. No sign, as of now, of the tensions easing. A new report telling us more about a major twist in the global power struggle between the US and China, it seems. For years now, Washington has warned other countries to avoid Chinese state bank loans, calling them dangerous, strategically motivated. But a new report now finds that the biggest recipient of those loans is actually the United States itself, as per the report. A-Data, a research lab at the College of William and Mary, says China's state lenders have funneled about $200 billion into US businesses over the last 25 years. Much of that money, according to the report, was hidden, routed through shell companies in the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, Delaware, and other locations, so the origin appeared to be Western and not Chinese. What's more concerning is, according to the report, many of these loans help Chinese companies buy into American businesses tied to sensitive technologies like robotics, semiconductors, biotech. These industries, remember, have direct national security implications. The report also says this is part of a much larger global strategy. From 2000 to 2023, China lent more than $2 trillion worldwide, not just to developing nations. Britain, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, and other US allies also received hidden financing. The report also describes the lengths to which Chinese banks go to hide their involvement. They use confidentiality agreements, Western-sounding front companies, a rapidly growing network of overseas bank branches that make the money even harder to trace, allegedly. In a notable case from 2015, Chinese state-owned banks provided more than $1 billion to help a private Chinese firm buy an 80% stake in Ironshore, which is a US insurer that served CIA and FBI personnel, reportedly. Regulators did not realize China was behind the purchase. What's the reason? Well, the funding reportedly came through a Cayman Islands company with no obvious connection to Beijing. Once the US officials discovered the link, they forced the Chinese buyer to sell. Now, the report also saying that US scrutiny has improved in recent years with stronger reviews of foreign investment, but it also says China has adapted, opening more than 100 overseas banks to keep operating through offshore channels. Just to sum this up, China's hidden lending reportedly reaches far further and much deeper into advanced economies than anyone previously understood, it seems. A US federal court has blocked Texas from implementing and using a redrawn congressional map of the state ahead of the crucial midterm elections next year. The ruling comes as a major setback for the Trump administration. 3 judges presided over the case. In a 2-1 ruling, the panel sided with the argument put forth by the administration's opponents, who said that the new map would basically harm Black and Hispanic residents. The court has ordered Republican-ruled Texas to use a 2021 map for the 2026 congressional midterm vote. The ruling states, I'm quoting, "To be sure, politics played a role in drawing the 2025 map, but it was much more than just politics. Substantial evidence shows that Texas racially was changing the 2025 map as per the allegation. In fact, the Republican governor of Texas and his administration filed an appeal on this decision at the US Supreme Court. The California governor celebrated this ruling, saying that democracy won. Ironically, the Democrat-run state of California responded to the Republican move in Texas by redrawing the districts to favor blue camp representation in the House of Representatives. Earlier this month itself, California voters approved a ballot to overhaul congressional boundaries of the state, and in response, Republicans called it a power grab and sued the state administration. On to football now. Curacao have become the smallest country to qualify for a World Cup now. The Caribbean nation hung on for a goalless draw against Jamaica on the last day of the qualifying. Curacao needed a draw in Kingston, while host Jamaica had to win to qualify for the World Cup. The visitors withstood relentless Jamaican attacks for 90 minutes. In fact, Jamaica hit the post 3 times in the second half. In stoppage time, a penalty awarded to Jamaica was overturned by VAR, but Curacao somehow held on to seal a World Cup berth, triggering massive celebrations in the visiting camp. The team went through World Cup qualifying undefeated, including a victory over Bermuda. Curaçao's football team is nicknamed the Blue Wave, and they finished top of Group B with 12 points from 6 games, 1 point clear of Jamaica. The football fans rightly celebrated that historic achievement back home, with the World Cup expanding to 48 teams next year. Opportunities have opened up for emerging football nations, but Curaçao's achievement still stands out.
That makes me feel amazing, because we are the smallest country to ever make it to the World Cup. We will show everyone that we are small, but we are big at heart. We are going to show them that we are big at heart.
And just to fully understand the extent of this achievement, one must first learn a little bit about the country. Curaçao is located in the Caribbean, is 37 miles off the Venezuela coast. They boast a population of just over 150,000 people, a landmass of just 444 square kilometers. Just to put things in perspective, Curaçao's population is less than 0.5% of Delhi's population, for example. Curaçao is not a full-fledged independent country, but considered a country within the Kingdom of Netherlands, a status that it acquired in 2010. That's when the country was recognized by FIFA. 10 years ago, they were ranked 150th in FIFA's world rankings, and today they have risen to the 82nd spot. The majority of players in the Curaçao squad were born in the Netherlands. In fact, the current squad has 22 Dutch-born footballers. The man who has taken Curaçao to the World Cup is also the head coach who took charge of the team in January 2024. The Dutchman is vastly experienced, previously managed the Netherlands, South Korea, Belgium, Russia, Serbia, Iraq, has plenty of World Cup experience as well. He guided the Netherlands to the quarterfinals of the 1994 edition, while he was in charge of South Korea at the 2006 tournament in Germany. He is now set to become the oldest coach ever at a World Cup. Curaçao surpasses Iceland as the smallest nation ever at a World Cup. Iceland featured at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. and at the time of the qualification had a population of just over 350,000. Last month, Cape Verde sealed a spot in the tournament for the first time. They have approximately 500,000 inhabitants. Paraguay had just under 1 million people when it played in the first World Cup in 1930. Trinidad and Tobago, with a population of around 1.3 million, qualified for their first and only World Cup in 2006. Do you believe in astrology? Are you someone who likes to consult an astrologer before doing something? Let's get to the story of Angela Pearl. She is a celebrity astrologer who Meghan Markle reportedly relies on. Now, whether or not you believe in astrology, this is quite a story. Let's just break this down for you. A report by South China Morning Post refers to a Substack article by British journalist and gossip columnist Rob Shuter, according to which, quote, Markle has reportedly become obsessed with the astrologer, quote unquote. Also that, quote, multiple insiders have reported that Markle won't approve a meeting, sign a deal, or even accept a dinner invitation without checking Angela's charts, quote unquote. Let's just tell you more about this celebrity astrologer. For starters, have a look through her social media and you know she is a celebrity. In fact, her social media has multiple pictures with famous figures, including Meryl Streep, Lawrence Sanchez, just to name a few. She reportedly is seen often at events hosted by celebrities. One of them, reportedly, has been the one that was hosted by the Clooneys, Amal Clooney and George Clooney in London. She was reportedly born in Ukraine, where she earlier worked as a mathematics teacher. How did the pivot to astrology happen exactly? After she herself had gone to an astrologer who made predictions that came true, reportedly. And then her curiosity led her down this path. She studied astrology, and since then, there's been no looking back. In fact, she has almost 2.7 million followers on YouTube and over 600,000 followers on Instagram. On to Nigeria now, where an entire community of parents is living through every mother and father's worst nightmare. Last night on the show, we told you about how gunmen attacked a high school in northwestern Nigeria, taking 25 schoolgirls, killing at least one staffer. There is confirmation that one of the students escaped. And as security forces search for the abducted schoolgirls, parents gathered outside the school gates, waiting, praying, fearing that their daughters may not come home. As of now, no group has claimed responsibility for the abduction. The girls were abducted from the school in Kirby State, and their motivation is still unclear. Nigeria is already facing a multi-dimensional security challenge, remember, specifically from groups of armed bandits who specialize in kidnapping for ransoms, sometimes totaling thousands of dollars, and have been responsible for several high-profile abductions across Nigeria's northern region. Kidnappings, attacks on villages and along major roads have become quite common because of the limited security presence. Those bandits are not connected to militant groups. Also, the Boko Haram and the splinter group Islamic State West Africa province, whose attacks on communities and government installations are motivated by religion. Police said the boarding school girls were taken from their dorms at 4 a.m. on Monday. The school is in the state's Danko Wasagu area. Osman Muhammad, a parent who has two of his daughters in the school, believes that this incident will affect the education of children in the community if nothing is done to counter the insecurity.
Our two girls have been kidnapped. One was in SS3 and the other in SS2. The news came to us in the morning when we woke up and heard the story. We had heard a gunshot in the night, but we thought the shot was from the security. Unfortunately, they were not the ones. It was not until morning that we received the shocking news.
No child will go back to the school if adequate security is not provided. Thule will not function again because the parents are saying they will not take their children there anymore due to the lack of security.
The United Nations has also urged the swift release of the schoolgirls. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, the UN deputy spokesperson called it a tragic incident.
UNICEF underscored that it continues to work with government partners, civil society, and communities to strengthen child protection systems and promote safe, inclusive learning environments across Nigeria. But these systems must be enforced to prevent future tragedies. The agency also calls for those responsible for this incident to be held to account in accordance with national and international standards.
This is not an isolated crisis as such. Armed groups have targeted school children in the region since 2014 when Boko Haram abducted 276 students. This was in Borno State. That abduction marked the beginning of a whole new era of fear. Dozens remain in captivity. Since the Chibok abductions, at least 1,500 students have been kidnapped, as armed groups increasingly find abductions as a lucrative way, reportedly, to fund other crimes and control villages in the country's mineral-rich but poorly policed region. In March 2024, more than 130 school children were rescued after spending more than 2 weeks in captivity in the Nigerian state of Kaduna. Nonetheless, raids on schools have subsided in recent years as the state governments implemented security measures in hotspots, including closing schools for an extended period of time. Despite this, the bandit networks continue to grow. Long before written history, before tools, before language shaped the world, one moment of contact rewired our evolution in a way. Science now claims the first kiss may have happened 21 million years ago. Take a look.
Forget everything you thought you knew about kissing. This isn't about moonlit nights or love letters. This is deep time, where instinct shaped the future. Scientists have dug into the fossil record, looked closely at our primate cousins, and found a fascinating insight. New research suggests that the behavior we now call kissing likely emerged among primates around 21 million years ago, long before culture, poetry, or romance ever existed. Researchers at the University of Oxford looked into evolutionary origins of kissing and its role in relations between species. Scientists studying fossil lineages and modern primate behavior have found strong clues. Many primates, chimpanzees, bonobos, macaques, press faces, touch lips, and exchange breath as part of bonding, conflict resolution, and mate selection. This isn't sentimental, it's strategy, a biological tool for survival, a way to signal trust, reduce aggression, and assess health. If our closest relatives do it, the logic follows. Early hominids, a primate of a family which includes humans, almost certainly did too. Not as a gesture of love, but as communication, silent, direct, loaded with evolutionary purpose. Recent genetic evidence adds another twist. Researchers analyzing ancient DNA say that contact-based interactions, including mouth-to-mouth behavior, may have played a role in transmitting microbes between early human species. Some pathogens that shaped human immunity today trace their origins to prehistoric exchanges between early Homo and Neanderthals. It wasn't romance, it was biology, crossing lines, sharing strengths, sharing weaknesses, shaping future generations. For scientists, it's a revolution in understanding, a gesture surviving through the ages, outlasting empires and ice ages, etched on our DNA. The next time two lovers meet, remember the story began not in the heat of passion, but in the struggle for survival. Evolution's greatest handshake began with a kiss. Bureau report, WION World is one.
In New York, Sotheby's has sold a solid gold, fully functional toilet for $12.1 million. It was created by an Italian conceptual artist, has made headlines since 2016, from museum displays to a notorious heist involving its twin. Let's now piece together for you what we know about this piece titled America, which was designed as a commentary on extreme wealth. It has proved its point, it seems. Take a look. A rare painting hidden from the world for decades has shattered modern art records. An Austrian artist's portrait, a full-length likeness of the 20-year-old Austrian heiress, has sold for $236 million at Sotheby's in New York. It is now the most expensive modern artwork ever auctioned. What's the story behind the price, you ask? Well, it's because of the unique history. At first glance, the portrait seems almost restrained, nothing like the other famous masterpieces by the artist. But look closer, and the canvas tells you a much bigger story. Painted between 1914 and 1916 in the shadow of the war, it surrounds Elizabeth in a spectral cocoon of white silk, East Asian symbols, microscopic shapes, dragons circling her gown, lifted from the Qing dynasty textiles, while cell-like motifs hint at the artist's fascination in a way with anatomy and the origins of life. It's a fusion of mythology, science, Vienna secession, modernism, all orbiting one portrait. The family, among Vienna's wealthiest Jewish patrons of the artist, had their vast collections seized by the Nazis in 1938. Elizabeth herself survived only after making an extraordinary claim that the artist, known for his many affairs, was allegedly, secretly, her biological father. A lie that her mother supported to save her from persecution, reportedly. Decades later, the painting resurfaced and entered the private collection of a billionaire, heir to the Estee Lauder fortune. And after his death this year, the portrait finally returned to public view, only to disappear again into the hands of a new buyer at a price that dwarfs the likes of Warhol and every modern great, except Vinci himself. Why $236 million? Because this is not just a painting. It's a relic of Vienna's golden age, a survivor of World War, exile, and reinvention. Houses reduced to rubble, thick plumes of smoke engulfing hundreds of buildings. This as Japan battles one of its biggest urban fires in almost half a century. The blaze has ripped through more than 170 buildings, killed one person. Take a look. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East,